Hello, my friends. This is Mike Holt, and I'm glad to have you with me. Even though I'm showing you some less than perfect weather here, it is still beautiful in its own way. And although the weather can turn bad on you, I always start making my way towards the entrance of the park to give myself a little escape route. And I think in the next scene here, that's pretty much what I'm trying to do. Now, it is not the forbidden wilderness that you see in so many documentary movies. It is perfectly safe the vast majority of the time, even in the wintertime. And the wintertime is my favorite time of the year. It may not be the favorite time of the year of the gentle giant buffalo here, but in its own way, it is extremely beautiful. You know, the buffalo work very hard, using that massive head as a shovel, as you can see here. But it's all in a day's work for them, even though they get only a few handfuls of grass for all that work that they're doing. It's just what they were born to do, and they do it very well. Only when they start aging do they seem to be troubled and weakened by extreme colds. I don't think there's a single animal out here that doesn't like to see a strong snowstorm dissipate, like this coyote here. But in its wake, a storm can wreak havoc just by dumping many feet of snow, and as you see him struggle to get some footing, try and find some flat ground somewhere, it can be a hardship. Also, in the wake of a storm, the temperatures plummet, especially on the first night, because of radiational cooling. It can get way below zero, and that can be an extreme hardship on the animals. You're listening to the howls of the Lamar pack now. They're one of our favorite packs of wolves, and they have been for many years because they've had to overcome so many hardships. The wolf that you see in the upper right there is now deceased, and he was 949. He was the alpha male, and off to his lower left is Little T. She's the alpha female now, and you'll see some pictures of her mate in just a few minutes here. You're looking at Little T here, and she is desperately looking for a carcass. And that carcass was one that they had taken the night before, and one that was actually stolen by a bunch of guys in a flatbed truck. Can you imagine somebody stealing a carcass from the wolves in a national park? Well, we saw it happen. And here we are with the Lamar pack again. The wolf on the far left is super alpha female 926. We call her Black Princess. To her, actually to our right, is Dot, who is the alpha male right now. And to his right, I think, is Little T, who is his mate, and they are the alpha pair right now. You know, I was really privileged to see especially the Lamar pack through the years. And 926, who was also killed in November 2018, she would look directly at me many times as I photographed her many times. I think she knew me and I knew her. It was an absolute privilege to see her as many times as I did through the years, and I still wish that she was still with us. And now you're looking at a very deadly scenario here for this poor female elk. She's been standing in the water now, freezing cold water, for 2 days. And she has a problem, a life-threatening problem. And you'll see him coming up in just a minute here. It is a lone wolf that's been stalking her since early the first morning. He actually chased her down to the water. She dragged him along. He did quite a bit of damage to her hind legs because she's limping here. And however, she's a fighter, and she dragged him into deep water. Wolves don't like to be in deep water, especially when the water is extremely cold, as it is here during the winter time. And he let go, and he's not in very good shape himself. He's up. I was never able to photograph them together because he's up about 200, 300 feet above her on the bank here, and she's just standing in the water trying to figure out what her best move can be. And she knows, I'm sure, as much as we knew at the time, that she couldn't stay in that water forever because it's freezing cold, and eventually that would weaken her. She did decide to make a run for it, and she did. She went down to where this river takes a bend to the left and forms the Lamar Canyon, and she disappeared into the Lamar Canyon, and we never saw her again. And we're pretty sure the wolf could not follow her because of all the trees that you'll see on the left. I took some still pictures of the Lamar Canyon so you could see exactly where she went. But we're glad to say that she disappeared, and we think that she made it out okay. And here's one of my favorite alpha males of all time, 1047. He still is the alpha of the Junction Pack. However, 3 years ago he broke his leg, and you will see that here. I expanded some of the picture. I showed him running. He only ran on 3 legs for the longest time. I think it took him about a year, and as far as I know, he's okay now. He is very much loved by all his pack members. But on this particular day, the visibility was bad. All the rest of the wolves could easily outrun him, and they were chasing some game somewhere, and they lost him. He ended up by himself by the tree here, and he howled and howled and howled. Finally, his brother answered his howls, and another wolf. And at that point, he took off and followed the sounds of the howls. And he did join his brother, and they were both so tired from running to try and find each other that they took a nap for a while, and then they got up and ran back towards the main pack, and you'll see that here too. And as you can see, when he got back to the pack with a broken leg, he made it back, and the rest of his pack mates were extremely glad to see him, and they played and wrestled with each other as they always did. Now the male buffalo, which we call the bulls, they can get very grumpy with each other from time to time, usually during the mating season, but not always. And they can fight, and they can do serious damage to each other. Hopefully these two walked away with no serious injuries. Next up, I found a fascinating grizzly bear. I think it was a male, and he was in the same location for 2 days. I found him both days, and he was very, I think he was happy, and I think he was also looking for a mate because it was that time of the season. I don't think he was hunting, but he reared up on his hind legs time and time again, and it was quite interesting to watch. Also scratched his back on the back of a tree. looking at one of the most extraordinary creatures I have ever seen out there in the wilderness. This is 870, and I called her Ruth. She was the alpha female of the Junction Pack back around 2014. And she was injured, but her sister ousted her from the pack. Her sister took over the alpha position, and then her sister would not let her back in the pack. As much as she tried, Ruth, 870 here, tried to follow the pack, and when she had to keep her distance, otherwise she would be threatened. And when the pack moved on from the carcass, she would go and just scavenge the carcass, and that's how she stayed alive for a long time. She looked at us in such a way that I know she was asking us for help. But the Park Service has a policy where we could not help. So we had to watch her for many days, and we knew that she didn't have very much time left.